Defend yourself against DDoS attacks by hiding your true IP address with ExpressVPN, and visit my custom link expressvpn.com/ghilliemaster in the description to find out how you can get an extra 3 months free. In the GT Online Summer DLC releasing in just a couple of weeks from now, Rockstar has specifically stated that the Bombushka will be getting a buff to its defensive and armor capabilities. We don't exactly know what that means just yet, but in this video I thought it would be a good idea to first talk about how bad the Bombushka is in its current form, and go over all the problems it has, and then after that discuss just how much of a buff it really needs in order for it to be a viable aircraft. And this video can also be used as a form of comparison to come back to after the update has released to see how things have changed. So starting out with the armor, or should I say lack of armor, it's terrible. It goes down in 3 RPGs or 3 homing rockets, which is absolutely horrible considering this cannot dodge a homing missile even if you tried the hardest you've ever tried. It's too big and too slow to dodge anything. So if any vehicle just shoots 3 missiles at you back to back, you are dead. There's nothing you can do. But what about countermeasures? Yeah, countermeasures suck too. The flares hardly work half the time, and the chaff only lasts for 7 seconds, in which case, where are you going to go in the Bombushka in 7 seconds? You might travel about 100 feet in 7 seconds. In terms of other explosive weaponry like the railgun and the explosive sniper, it dies to 7 shots from the explosive sniper and 6 from the railgun. Again, a very, very easy target to hit in the sky. It's a sitting duck against explosive rounds. But this isn't even the worst part about the armor on this aircraft. The way aircraft armor works in this game, if you take damage up to a certain point, then the vehicle will continuously take damage as it continues to fly until the engine's dead. In the Bombushka's case, it technically has 4 engines, but the game classifies them as 2, so one pair of the engines will die at the same time, and then the other pair will die at the same time, if the damage continues. Well, guess what? If you get shot just 1 time by a railgun, that is enough damage to completely disable one side of the engines if you continue to fly the plane. After a minute or so, they will completely die out on you. The good news is that the other side is separate, so it will continue to work until it's also shot a second time, and then your plane is a ticking time bomb for when it's entirely destroyed. It's absolutely awful, and this is actually how all aircraft armor works in the game. Helicopters and jets are the same exact way as this, but with the Bombushka, it's even more abhorrent because even if you wanted to go back and repair the vehicle, you couldn't because it's way too slow. You're never going to make it back in time. Overall, it's just a terrible way to do aircraft armor in general, but it's exponentially worse on the Bombushka. Long story short, you take any explosive damage in the Bombushka, your engines are done for. And it's the same thing for non-explosive weaponry too, just regular heavy sniper bullets, which have infinite range practically. It will only take around 30 or so shots, maybe even less than that, to completely cripple one of the engines. And for other general weaponry like the assault rifle, it only took 180 shots to disable one side. Imagine you're in a cop chase getting shot by police helicopters nonstop. It's going to go down very, very fast because you aren't going to be able to avoid gunfire. Now, the other strange thing about the armor in the Bombushka has to do with the invisible wall. You see, once upon a time, people used to use the Bombushka on cell missions by storing post-op vans, for instance, in the cargo bay area, and then they'd fly to a closer location to drop all the vans off at. It was a cool strategy to complete sales faster, but it's GT Online, we can't have cool things, so Rockstar blocked off the cargo bay area by slapping an invisible wall in the way, so if you tried to drive something in the back, you just couldn't. That is, until you take off basically every upgrade, the JTOW, the weapons, bombs, countermeasures. Once you remove all those, then you can access the cargo bay again. However, what this invisible wall also did was make it so you can no longer be shot out of the cockpit. The invisible wall goes all the way around to protect the cockpit as well. So if you remove the invisible wall from the back of the aircraft so you can have access to the cargo area again, then you also let yourself get shot out of the aircraft once again. It's very bizarre. So in the armor and defense department for the Bombushka, what needs to happen is it basically needs to have anywhere from Acid Lab to MOC-like armor, with a lock-on jammer to go along with it. This vehicle is far too easy to take down with homing missile spam, and even with a lock-on jammer, it would be very easy to hit with missiles because of the lack of speed it has. This kind of armor would also make it practically immune to normal bullets, which it should be for its size and movement speed, and very, very resistant to explosive rounds for the same exact reason. It should take a group effort of explosive rounds to bring this down, not just one person shooting it one time with a railgun. That's ridiculous. I've seen people say the Bombushka should just get Avenger armor, and I disagree. It needs more armor than the Avenger. The Avenger is quite fast for what it is. The Bombushka is not. The Bombushka's top speed, I want to say, is like 20 miles per hour. The blimp is faster in a straight line than the Bombushka is, so it needs to be way more armor than the Avenger to compensate. Also, get rid of the invisible wall surrounding the aircraft to allow people to actually use this in creative ways for sales again while having all their upgrades on. That was a very interesting way to utilize a vehicle that otherwise didn't see much use. If vehicles have more uses to them, even niche ones, more people will buy them. It's a win-win situation and makes the game more fun. And in its place, the Bombushka should get bullet-resistant glass because otherwise it's just far too easy to snipe the pilot out of the vehicle with its massive windows that even go so far to reach the roof of the aircraft. Even if the Bombushka got a buff to its armor in the way that I suggest here, it still would be useless unless the turrets also get fixed. If you guys don't know, the Bombushka turrets, and I believe the volatile turrets also, are broken right now, and they have been for years. I don't remember what update they fucked this up in, but they severely limited the effective area that you can fire every one of the turrets, making them practically useless for taking out targets. An issue I presume is a bug because it just doesn't feel right at all in their current form. There's no way it's intentional. And to give you a visual example of how bad this is, I have created some diagrams to show what I'm exactly talking about. So this is a top-down view of the Bombushka. It has 3 turret locations, one on the back tail, one on the top, and one on the bottom underneath the cockpit of the aircraft. The top turret in the gun camera, you can aim all the way around in a full 360 showcased by the blue circle here. Even above the aircraft a good amount too, you can aim and fire, or you should be able to. However, the gun will only fire if you are aiming at the very, very tight cone showcased by the green in the diagram. So even though the game lets you look all the way around in the gun camera and you think you'd be able to fire it from wherever you can turn the gun camera, you can't. You can only fire it in that little awkward portion in front of it, which is very strange. The same thing happens with the back turret. You can look a good amount to each side to cover the full back of the aircraft. However, not really, because you can only fire it in that very tight cone. So the moment a target just goes outside of that, even though you can look at them and aim at them with the gun turret, you can no longer shoot them. And by far the worst of them all is the bottom front side cannon. This was the best turret on the Bombushka for engaging ground targets because of how wide of a field of view you had with it. Not only could you aim it in front of the aircraft, but you could aim it down straight below it also, as well as behind it and everywhere in between. This diagram doesn't really even do it justice because it's only on a 2D plane. And with how that bottom turret used to work, the strategy with the Bombushka would be the pilot would just circle around the area that the combat's happening in, and the gunner would just be able to aim and shoot at all the targets that are on the ground with its wide range. But right now, in its broken form, the bottom turret, you can only fire it in front. If you try to look down, it's not going to let you fire. If you try to look behind you, you can't fire it. It's only that tight window in front of the aircraft, which makes that entire strategy that I just talked about completely useless. And it just contributes to the Bombushka being terrible, especially when you pair it with how bad the armor is. Just look at this gameplay here. This is from my montage that I uploaded in 2017. Look at the turret putting in work here. I'm shooting down at targets. I can shoot at the ground while facing behind the aircraft, which is very helpful with how slow the aircraft goes. It pairs nicely. Compared to the current form, it's just a laughingstock. It's a shame how bad it is now. And I'll say this, if the turrets don't get fixed on the Bombushka with this update, then there's no point in buffing the armor, in my opinion. Because it will still be just as useless. You're not going to be able to hit shit if you have to use these tight-ass windows. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Bombushka buff, and how much of a buff do you think it truly needs to its defense? If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like, as well as subscribe to my channel for more GTA Online content. I also want to give a huge shout out to all my channel members for your support, as well as to my friend EnderCrafter for helping me record for this video. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can either use the join button or the link that's down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.